The Indiana Fever, yes. That Indiana Fever are headed to the WNBA Semifinals a first time since 2015. And if you're blinking in confusion saying this wasn't supposed to happen, not this season, not with his roster, and definitely not against a confident surging Atlanta Dream squad, they have been itching to take the next step. But somehow in a chaotic, gritty, and emotionally exhausting Game 3, the Fever defied the odds, and let's be real, it felt like a movie. But if this is a movie, then Lexie Hull is the surprise breakout star. Because when it mattered most, clock-ticking, pressure-peaking entire season aligned. If you're here for the real story and not a filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. Lexie didn't flinch. She snatched the ball spawn like a ballerina possessed and sang to kind of shot that doesn't just win a game, a rewrite of franchise's narrative. And that's exactly what this was, a full Henry. Right now, before we get into the man, you've got to understand where this all started. The Indiana Fever has spent the better part of last decade being, how do we put this, background characters in the WNBA storyline. No shades, as facts after legends. Names like to meet at catching retired the franchise or fell into a sport purgatory. Always rebuilding, never quite ready. They were the team everyone respected, but no one feared until now. Coming into the 2023 season, the expectations weren't exactly sky high. They had town. It's surely a boss and came in the hype for days. Kelsey Mitchell had to scoring jobs and Lexie Hull had defensive grit. But this team wasn't deep. And when injuries started piling up, we are talking 6 core players out, the outlook started looking bleak. At one point you could practically hear the skeptics whispering, same old Fever. But then something weird happened. Instead of collapsing, this team started fighting, like really fighting. Grit, hustle, defense. They lean into all the things that don't show up in highlight reels, and it worked. Piece by piece, game by game, they clawed their way back into playoff picture. Still underdogs, still overlooked, but now dangerous, which brings us to the Atlanta Dream Game 1 of the series. Messy, the Fever looked gassed. The Dream came out swinging, fueled by the rising star power and home court swagger. It felt like Indiana might fold, but in Game 2 something clicked. Odyssey Sims' veteran presence, pure composure, came alive. Aaliyah Boss and put on post clinic. Kelsey Mitchell hit shots like she had a personal vendetta. And suddenly the series was tied, which meant do or die. Game 3 now. Listen, Game 3 was not for the faint of heart. If your blood pressure didn't spike during that fourth quarter, congratulations on being a cyborg. It was physical, it was loud, and it was tense. Atlanta brought the noise literally and figuratively. The crowd with rabid. The refs were, let's just say, interesting. And a Dream weren't going down without a fight. But what the Fever brought was different. It wasn't flashy, it was focused. Defensive rotations were on point, communication locked in every possession with battle, and Indiana refused blink. And then that moment happened. Final minute at land to a possession, the Dream down 1, looking to steal the game back. Lexie Hull steps up like she knew what was coming. She reads the play, pokes the ball loose, scoops it up like she was born do this. And just you think you'll pass or slow down, nope, she rises, fired from deep buckets, no hesitation, no mercy. And with that, the Dream's hopes deflated. The Fever bench exploded. Lexie became a legend. Let's be real, it wasn't just a shot, it was a state. But this wasn't a lucky break, this was execution under pressure, a full circle moment for a team that had been written off for years. And while Hull got the final spotlight, and rightfully so. This one was a team production. Kelsey Mitchell, killer instinct, all game ice veins. She plays like someone who's been waiting for this moment, slashing to defenders, hitting daggers, drawing contact, keeping our team composed when things got chippy. Aaliyah Boston, that pose presence is no joke. She may be young, but she plays like a seasoned vet. Her footwork clean, her rebounding relentless. She was a backbone of Indiana's pain defense and a steady hand on offense when everything else got chaotic. Odyssey Sims absolute glue. Her leadership was the difference between a young team cracking under play or pressure or rising above it. She controlled the tempo, pushed the pace when needed, and slowed things down when he got me. Said Brianna Turner, silent killer on defense, the kind of player who doesn't need to fill the stat sheet to completely shift the energy of the game. Her help defense and rebounding made it impossible for the Dream to get second chance points. It was like watching a symphony of role players turning into warriors. Every single Fever player play like they had something to prove, and maybe they did, because for the past decade this franchise has been a punchline, and now they're writing a new story. Now, of course, we gotta talk about the officiating. There were, let's just say, some choices made, a few whistles, and filled suspiciously one-sided one or two calls, and even made seasoned broadcasters go, wait, what? But instead of letting it unravel them, Indiana chilled the frustration. They turned every question will call into fuel. They locked and pushed harder and made sure to gain and come down to a rest whistle. That mental fortitude, that's championship DNA. So now the Fever are headed to this semifinals, and waiting for them, oh, just the reigning champs. No big deal. The Las Vegas Aces or everything. Indiana isn't deep experience stack with all stars there, the polished machine, the high budget sequel, the final boss. But don't count the Fever out, because what Indiana lacks and pedigree they make up for, and hunger they've tasted redemption they felt was like to prove people wrong. And if you think the going back down now after everything they've overcome, think again. This isn't just the playoff run, it's a resurrection. Lexie Hull still wasn't just the game winner, it was a message to the lead, to the fans, to the doubters. The Fever are here, and they are not messing around. So what's the moral of this wild ride besides never underestimate a team with nothing to lose? Maybe it's this heartbeat type. Every time you can have the big names, the highlight reels, the star power, but when it's crunch time, give me the team has been forging chaos, sharpened by failure and hungry for somebody. Believe in Indiana Fever. You've earned your flowers, every last one. And now I'll bring on the Aces. If you're still breathing after that roller coaster, hit the comments. Who is your MVP at Game 3? Kind of Fever actually pull off the unthinkable and take down Vegas? Oh, is this their final hurrah? Make sure you subscribe for more play drama, WNBA chaos, and all the jaw-dropping moments will come because of this game. Taught us anything, it's that the underdogs orange is bark anymore. They're biting. The Indiana Fever have officially in their own bothered underdog revenge era, and now they're staring down the juggernaut in Las Vegas with kind of chaotic energy that makes champions sweat. If you're vague, you're still favored, you should be favored. You're loaded with top-tier talent. You've got the playoff experience, the rings, the banners, the hardware. But would you don't have the desperation, the fearlessness, that low seed energy that turns just happy to be here into we're burning the whole bracket down. Let's be honest, Indiana was never supposed to be in this position by all convince. Logic, they should have folded months ago. They lost almost half their core injury, their bench with duct tape and vibes. Analysts had them circled as an early exit if they even made the postseason at all. But instead they built chemistry and the chaos players you barely notice in the regular scene. When they stepped up like they had nothing to lose, they turned every game into a fight, every possession into a grind. and by the time the playoff came knocking, they weren't intimidated, they were ready. You could feel in Game 3, that final quarter was peak sports drama. The lead bounce around like a hot potato. You could hear the anxiety, and he announces voices, one bad possession, one bad call, one misrotation, and it was over. But Indiana, they stayed locked and they wanted to smoke, even when Atlanta made that late push, even when a momentum started tilting. There was no panic, no flay. Ailing, just focused, steely-eyed resolve. And when Lexie Hull reached in for that iconic steal, you could practically hear the air being sucked out of the arena. It was one of those plays that doesn't just win a game, it wins respect. Like, let's give a name the whole heist. Because that wasn't his defense. That was intuition. She read the play like it was a spoiler on Reddit, moved before the ball handler even realized the pass was coming. And then to have the audacity to pull up from deep in transition with the game on the line, that's not just confidence, that's pure chaos demon energy. That I've got nothing to lose and everything to prove energy. Lexie Hull deserves a fake award for that one. Let's call the Stone Cold Steel or of Souls trophy. Honorable mentions go to whoever taught her how to ignore pressure and silent a stadium like it's like work. But Hull's moment, as massive as it was, wasn't the only magic of play. This Fever squad, they become experts at spreading the spotlight. Kelsey Mitchell could have dropped 30 and walked away with the headlines, but she played exact game they needed. Smart, a fish, and aggressive. Her timing impeccable, her shot selection share kiss. Every time Atlanta looked like they were building something, Mitchell hit the reset button. And Ilya Boston, can we talk about how fast you become the anchor? This team, it's wild. Most rookies been the first year just learning to breathe in the league. Boston, she's already making all-star caliber decisions like you've been doing this for a decade. Her defense and the paint completely neutralized. It landed interior game, the footwork, the awareness, the ability to contest without fouling. It was a masterclass. She's giving future franchise cornerstone energy. Like, if you're an Indiana fan right now, you're thinking we're actually building something real here. And Odyssey Sims, you want a steady veteran hand and playoffs. She delivered. Her play wasn't flashy, but it was surgical. The pacing, the communication, the sneaky clutch passes. She kept everyone calm, and the refs started getting whistle happy when it landed. Tried to rattle him a full court pressure. Seems just smiled and walked up like she was on a Sunday stroll. That's the kind of leaders, that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, but it wins you series. Brianna Turner, can we give her a human Velcro medal? The woman was attached or matchup like her life depended on it. She fought for boards like it was personal. Every loose ball she was there, every rotation she was one step ahead. Her hustle plays didn't as boost the box score, they demoralize Atlanta. You could see in the Dream's eyes after each possession, like, how are we still not ahead? Because here's the thing, the Fever wanted it more. That's not just a cliche. It was obvious in every possession. They were diving for balls, clapping on defense, huddling after every whistle. It was old school, high stakes, back our basketball energy. And you can't coach that. You either have it or you die. Now heading into the semi-final matchup with Vegas, things are about to get real. The Aces, or not Atlanta, they're bigger, deeper, and just plain mean in paint. Aya Wilson is a walking highlight reel. Chelsea Gray is practically psychic on the floor. Kelsey Plum can drop 25 in her sleep, but if Vegas doesn't have that post-apocalyptic level of chaos Indiana thrives in, the Aces or use of controlling the tempo, dictating matchups, running teams off the floor. But what happens when they run into a team that refuses to die, a team that turns every game into a brawl in the alley? That's what makes his upcoming series so compelling, because even if Indiana gets swept, and let's be honest, it could happen, they're still the team nobody want to play. They're the ranch in your engine, the glitch in your perfect bracket. they've already done the unthinkable everything from here on out bonus round. But don't get it twisted, this team isn't just happy to be here. You don't play like they did in Game 3 if you're satisfied with a moral victory. They're hunting for more respect, legacy, chaos, all of it. And the longer they stick around, the more pressure they put on Vegas. Because of you, the Aces, you have to win. You're the favorites, the defending champs. Anything being less than a final strip is failure. But Indiana, they've already broken free. No weight, no pressure, just pure unfiltered hunger. And maybe, just maybe, that's what makes them dangerous. So as we head into the semifinals, let's pour one Alpha Fever's haters, the ones who left back in June when Indiana lost 4 straight. And people say it was time to tank. The ones who assumed his team didn't have the grit to last past Game 1. How take aging now? Because Indiana didn't survive, they arrived, and they're coming for everyone who didn't see them coming. So yeah, go ahead and call a Cinderella run if you want, but just know this Cinderella brought sneak years, defensive traps, and Lexie Hull with a full-blown highs plan. And if they have their way, the clock won't strike midnight. This isn't as a team with a chip on their shoulder. They're dragging around entire gravel pit of doubt, disrespect, and years of being treated like the league's afterthought. You think they forgot about the media snobs? The game schedule that shoved them into weird weekday time slots like no one to be watching, the endless rebuild jokes. No, they remember everything, and now they're turning that pettiness into power. It's giving you left us off your power rankings. Now we're haunting your dreams. It's giving revenge tour energy, but with better passing lanes. Because his team, they're no longer waiting for the league to acknowledge them. They've kicked the door open, pour coffee on the nice white carpet, and dared you to ask him to leave. And Lexie Hull, bless her stone cold heart, just might be the league's most unexpected age and of chaos. Look, she's not your classic W and be a highlight queen. She's not out here dropping 40, breaking ankles, or hitting logo threes. But what she does bring: precision, tenacity, any ability to absolutely ruin your orphans at the worst possible moment. Lexie is a type of player you don't think about until their hands stealing your play. Our dreams, that Game 3 steal and 3 sequence wasn't as a clutch moment, it was psychological warfare. And Atlanta, they folded immediately after. Like, imagine fighting tooth and nail for 39 minutes. Oh, and have your hopes ripped out by someone who looks like she off you gone before playing lockdown defense. Iconic. Give her a fake WNBA defensive villain origin story award, or at least an honorary most likely to break your confidence with 1 steal sash. But let's not forget, this moment wasn't just her. There's this entire Fever squad was sculpted by hardship, and I don't mean a usual "we had to practice in a bad facility" type of struggle. I mean real adversity. Months of losses, rotating lineups, trade rumors, injuries are stacked up like Bajengo. And through it all, they stuck together. That's what makes this team dangerous. They're not here because of one superstar put the whole franchise on her back. They're here because every single player decided to dig in when it would have been easier to pack it up. They're the WNBA version of a punk garage band at somehow sold out Madison Square Garden without ever be on radio. And now they're in the semifinals facing the slick, polished franchise of the moment, Las Vegas Aces. Talk about an aesthetic clash. On one side, you got the Aces. Everything about them screams dynasty. They got chemistry, money, experience, MBPS, fashion, partnerships, courtside celebrities. They don't just walk into a game, they arrive like the main characters. They are on the other side, India. Anna, the team has been playing every game like in a cage match in someone's driveway. Hustle first, scrappy, chaotic, good. They don't care if it's pretty, they care if it works. And this is where things get interesting. Because, well, Vegas might be most technically sound team league, Indiana at unhinged. nothing to lose vibe that throws game plans into a blender. You can't scout for this energy, you can't diagram it on a clipboard. It is like trying to prepare for a thunderstorm with a flashlight. The Fever's defense alone and become an identity. Aggressive rotating hands, he disruptive especially when the stakes get high. A love turning clean structured offensive possessions in distress spirals, and Vegas underestimate them for even one game. That's all it takes, because Indiana isn't looking to win a 7-game series. They're looking to steal moments, to break rhythm, to knock the Aces off the pedestal just long enough to make them question themselves. And when the pressure ratchets up, that's when the cracks start to show. Now, is Indiana likely to win the series? If we're being honest, probably not. But that's not really the point anymore. The point is they're not supposed to be here, and yet here they are, alive, loud, and utterly to find. They've already accomplished more than anyone outside at locker room ever believed possible. They reminded the WNBA and all of us why the playoff matter, why stories like this still hit hard, because it's not just about who's best on paper, it's about who can walk into a hostile arena with half the rotation patched together from pure willpower and still say, let's go. It's about what happens when one team refuses to believe the script is finished. So where the Aces, or the final boss Indiana, didn't just beat Atlanta, they cracked open their own ceiling, and that ceiling has been hanging over them for 10 years. Said 2015, the Fever have been building something slowly, painfully, one draft pick in time, one frustrating loss after another. They watched other franchises rise, win rings, collect MVPs, but now they've got a taste of the spotlight, and they're not letting go without a fight. Even if his run ends the next round, even a Vegas sweeps, it doesn't erase what just happened. The Fever turn a broken season into a war cry. They turn injury reports into opportunity. They turn half-forgotten franchise into the storyline of the postseason, and more than anything else, they made it fun again. Watching Indiana play right now feels like watching a team fall in love with the game, like watching players realize, hey, maybe this isn't just a rebuild, maybe we're already becoming who we're meant to be. That kind of belief, it's contagious, and don't be surprised if it starts spreading through the league to the fan base, to every arena that suddenly has to care about what the Fever doing. So here's your final thought, your poetic out. True, sometimes a storm is incoming, sometimes the storm's the team you forgot about. Nobody saw it coming, not the analysts, not the fans, now even have the league. The Indiana Fever weren't supposed to do anything this year except develop young talent, lose valiantly, and pray for next season. They were supposed to be a footnote, a rebuilding year, a polite enough in the commentary booth before everyone switched focus back to the Aces, the Liberty, the usual suspects. But now the Fever have ripped up the script, set on fire, and are tap dancing the ashes. And it feels good, it feels chaotic, it feels earned, because this isn't as a team started winning, it's a team that remembered who they were, a franchise that finally shook off the dust of a decade-long identity crisis and said, actually, we are that team. And maybe the wins came later than expected, maybe the band got thrown together with last-minute subs and emergency lineups, but sometimes that's how the best music happens. Every PL